Hello and welcome, my name is Dr. Anthony Cliff and today we're talking about how to do a test of normality on your data in SPSS. So why is this important? Well, there's two types of statistical tests you can do depending on if your data is normal or not normal, and that's a parametric test or a non-parametric test. And often it is an assumption of all statistical tests that you know what type of data you have. And it must be therefore when you're conducting a test that you're using the correct one. So the term normality in data is used to explain the distribution of your data in question. So normal data is data that is assumed to be from a population that is evenly distributed. Okay, so an example of this is if you were to sample everyone walking past your house for an hour, you may well find you'll have a few people on the very small scale, quite a lot of people in the average kind of height category, and then a few very tall people. And if you draw that on the graph, it would be almost like a bell shape. You know, it would come up like this, and then it would go down. So that's evenly distributed data. Now, if the data is not normal, so it's not from a population that's evenly distributed, then only non-parametric tests can be used. Now, often when we come to do questionnaires, certainly for this kind of work, it's quite often that you'll find non-normal data. Often you have to get right up into the thousands, the 2000s amount of questionnaires to start getting normal data. And certainly for us as social science and physical geography researchers, non-normal data is fine. It's often what we're going to discover. But if you were a psychologist, for example, or medical personnel, then you're going to keep going till you get normal data. So often we will have non-normal data. However, if you did have normal data, well then parametric tests are often seen as a more powerful form of analysis. So while non-parametric tests are less powerful, statistically speaking, they're often more versatile. Because if you have a relatively small sample size, it's not evenly distributed, then you would use a non-parametric test. And the best part about all of this is that non-parametric tests, while they're less powerful, they're more versatile because you can use that on non-parametric and parametric data. However, parametric tests can only be used on parametric data. Okay? So we're going to go into SPSS now and we're going to show you how to do a test of normality. Okay, so I've pulled my SPSS file up here and I'm going to discover now whether my data is normally distributed, so parametric data, or if it's going to be not normal, so I'm going to use non-parametric data. So this is a questionnaire delivered out to students as a geography cohort. So it's probably unlikely it's going to be parametric data, but we will see. So to do this test is really simple. You click Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and then you go down to this Explore option. Now you can do this by individual questions. So I'm just going to look at gender, for example, here, and I'm going to put age across and the level of study. Now in SPSS you can put as many of these into here as you want. Now often I would recommend that you do that for the first go. That you hold control down and you click each individual one so it's highlighted and then throw it across into this bit here, into this dependent list. Okay, so that's really important because you want to get a whole sense of your data there. But if you just want to focus on one or two questions, then just throw that particular variable across. Statistics, click on that box here, make sure that your descriptives is ticked, click continue. Plots, this is the most important one here, is to click your normality plots with tests, because this is the one that we're looking for. Click continue and then click OK, and SPSS will run that for you. Now SPSS runs two types of so keep scrolling down till you get to here, this test of normality box. So SPSS will give you two tests of normality. and that's a Kolmogorov-Smirnov and a Shapiro-Wilks. Now I would always recommend that you look at the Shapiro-Wilks box here. And the reason for that is Shapiro-Wilks works with around about 50 data bits up to about 2000. So it works so much smaller, which is often what we would use as geographers and around about that, certainly as students. But a Kolmogorov-Smirnov is obviously in the way up in the high hundreds, the thousands, etc. So often kind of look at the Shapiro-Wilks, you can't really go wrong with that. And the one column you need to focus on here is the significance here, okay? Now if this was more than 0.05, it would show us that we had normal data. But as we can see here, we've got 0.000, which is less than 0.05. So therefore we know that for gender, age and level of study, it's not evenly distributed, so we could only use non-parametric tests on that particular variables there. So now that we know that our data is non-parametric, there are certain tests that we're only allowed to conduct on our data. So in our next session, I'm going to talk through how to use chi-squared, Mann-Whitney, and a Kruskal-Wallis test, which are often the most common non-parametric tests that we'll use on your data.